Hi, hello, and welcome to another episode from, of course,
China.
my name is Fernando, and this is
Ziv.
And today we have a very special guest, Ludovic. Ziv, why don't you tell us something about
Ludovic
Casteleyn?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Ludo, you were born in Hong Kong. No, sorry, you were not born in Hong Kong, but you moved to Hong Kong in a very young age, 2 months old, with your parents, and you grew up in Hong Kong, and then you moved to Switzerland for a very famous hospitality school in Lausanne, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And then after that, you travel in China, and then you started your career in hotels, both in Switzerland, in Hong Kong, and Dubai and the Maldives. Very interesting career.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
And now you are working in a hotel here in Dongguan in China.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Well, welcome to the show, Ludo.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Okay, so we are going to start talking. I'm pretty interested, and I'm sure some of our viewers and listeners are interested in what is it like to grow up in Hong Kong before the handover, like in the 90s. So I know you moved there when you were very, very young, but what do you remember about growing up? What do you remember about going to school in Hong Kong at that time, society in Hong Kong at that time? Why don't you tell us some about these things?
So just to put things in perspective, so my family got there in 1987. So the handover happened in 1997. So that was 10 years. So I was kind of young. So I do remember a couple of things, but I was actually in the French international school over there. So with a bunch of Frenchies, I guess, also. So, not in deep down inside the Hong Kongese culture. So to say a little bit of the exposure. So I do remember, the thing is, we were not that many expats at that time also. I definitely have this feeling, yeah. And as an expat, maybe especially the French community, we were really living as a community and in between Frenchies,
Like a cluster of people. They all knew each other.
Yeah. Very
You
much.
knew
A
all their
small village
parents.
in the town,
In the Hong Kong side of Hong Kong.
Hong Kong side,
Right.
yeah. At that time, everyone was basically living on the Hong Kong side.
So you got there when you're 2 months old. Did you have any during these 10 years before the handover? Did you have any local friends, Hong Kongese?
A couple. Actually, a couple of local friends who were at the French International School. Those couple of friends who were Hong Kong by birth and passport and everything. So they were Hong Kong people. But they at some point, because they were staying in the French International School, studying with us, and spending most of their time with us, they did pick up a lot of the French culture as well. So as I told earlier, also I had some extracurricular activities, as in like judo, like swimming, this and that, rugby, whatever, and that I got to meet more like locals, Hong Kong people. But again, it was a very expat kind of environment,
Right, in Hong Kong back then.
So I guess it's at that time, I was really this expat kid with. Like an expat.
But like we
already.
spoke before in the preparation. I guess you did, so. But you're saying you didn't really have many local friends, but I guess you also didn't have many other nationalities kind of friends. It was really French.
Yeah,
right.
Very much.
Like you say, like a cluster. So did you the school? You went to the French international school, right?
Yeah.
And the whole school studied in French. In French?
No, so there was the French stream and the English stream. So basically the school was divided in two, in between those who would actually have their classes in French and those who would have their classes in English. So basically those who would have their classes in French were mostly French or from a French-speaking country, like
Switzerland,
Belgium, Swiss, maybe French-Canadian or something. But there were also some locals or some other nationalities whom the parents, maybe would speak French a bit and decided, the best way for their kid to actually learn like another language would actually to set them up in a French school. Like you, Fernando.
That was actually my parents' decision. They figured, okay, my kids can learn English anytime. It's just very easy. So let's put them in a French school so they could have an advantage in life. And
Right.
basically
When
that's
I was
what
in the
did.
middle school, we could choose the third language to study for 3 years, and the choice was French or Arabic. I chose Arabic.
Yeah, good
I
for you.
know,
Actually.
je m'appelle
French is a
Ziv, that's
horrible.
all I know.
French
yes.
is a horrible language, actually.
No,
But,
no, no.
but how come? Okay, it's the French international school. Why do they have English stream?
Because just to,
For
to
expats,
pay
I
the
guess.
bills, I guess, just
So
to have
more
more
people-
Cater to expats.
Right.
And they teach them a little French, so
So the Hong Kong, I mean, for people that don't know, I mean, okay, Hong Kong has a lot of expats. Back then, maybe more than now. I'm not
No,
sure.
I
back
don't
then
think so.
way less than now.
Less than
Yeah,
now, but
of
it was
course.
even though it was British.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's French, I guess French international school is not the only kind of specific kind of international school.
No, there was plenty.
they were
Yeah.
they were
There
also
was the
German
German
school,
Swiss.
yeah.
There was the German Swiss. There was what?
Deutsche
There,
Schule.
French, the
sure,
German.
there was a Japanese
American,
school.
I'm sure,
For sure, there was a
Japanese,
Korean school.
Korean.
And then there was. I don't think there was like a British school, an American school, because that's English speaking. So they would actually.
No, but they probably will have some British schools and some American schools, because if they wanted the kids to go to
Maybe.
university in the States, they'll go
Right.
with SAT. That's the same thing. Your preparation that you did in the French school prepared you for the baccalaureate.
yeah.
You didn't take Chinese examinations or anything like that.
Right. So I'll just hit the spot right away. I mean, so you grew up in Hong Kong, but and you studied in a French school, and you do not speak Cantonese.
I don't speak Cantonese. Yeah, right. Yeah. That's the
You
the
feel
kind of disappointment,
Okay.
about living in Hong Kong for so long not to be able to speak Cantonese. Although I do understand a little bit. That's usually how I say it.
you do understand
It's probably
some.
better,
a
right?
little bit.
Probably better. You know what they're saying about you.
Yeah.
You know some. He probably knows more. I would assume, right?
No.
Right. I don't know.
Cantonese?
You can just joke in Cantonese, I guess.
I only
You have
joke
some.
Cantonese.
Okay, it's the
Yeah.
same thing every
Just
time.
let's play the clown, say a few words.
Right.
No, but
So you
I'm
do
sure
feel
he
it-
speaks better than me.
You do feel a bit sorry about this. Is it weird when you say to people, I grew up in Hong Kong, and it's like they expect
Actually,
you to speak Cantonese?
The weird thing is, I feel weird about this. Hong Kong people don't.
Okay.
When I say this to Hong Kong people, they're like, yeah, well, actually, at the end in Hong Kong, you can speak English. So they're
Right.
like, yeah, whenever
That's the
I
way
say
it
this to Hong
was.
Kong people, they're like, well, yeah, well, makes sense. But I do feel weird about this, And the way I put it also is when I say this to people who are not from Hong Kong, they feel weird also about this, And when I
Like
say
us.
this to Hong Kong, to French people, they're like, dude, that's kind of disrespectful, You've been living there
You-
for so long,
Yes.
you don't even speak the local language, That's
Like
bad,
what we said, Fernando, right? We've been here almost 20 years, and we don't really speak fluent Mandarin.
It's the biggest regret and the biggest shame. I mean, when you said, how long you been here? 20 years. Oh, so your Mandarin must be so good. I'm like, no, buddy. Sorry. Sorry
Yeah.
to disappoint you there. I always excuse myself with the fact that people come to me to learn English because that's my job. So I don't have that many opportunities because everybody tries to communicate in English.
So you speak English, Spanish, French,
and some Mandarin.
some Mandarin, and just funny Cantonese.
The funny country. No, I understand a lot of Italian, a lot of Portuguese, because
do?
it's kind of like a
Wow.
mix of Italian, French and Spanish. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So
How about you, Ziv? How's your Mandarin? How's your Cantonese?
Fine, thank you. And
Mama
you?
ho ho, mama ho ho. I think I know how it is. It's like you tell people, no, I don't really speak Mandarin, but then they come and you're in a taxi with them and you speak some, and they think you speak Mandarin. No, I don't. You don't get it.
Yeah.
I speak good.
It's very limited.
Yes, it's in this situation. Yes, I'm fine.
Yeah. It's
But
situational.
in another 99
speaking.
situations, I'm not.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You
right.
take
Right.
me out of the confines of this particular situation in this shop where I'm buying these shoes, and I'm screwed.
But it might be okay, good enough to write Chinese on your LinkedIn account.
More than the others.
Yes. So okay, we go back to you 87 to 97, you say, right? So
Yeah.
and then the handover
Yeah.
happened.
How was
Yeah.
that experience?
So I remember actually at that time it was a big thing actually.
The
I
handover
remember my
from-
parents
from-
getting all
Yeah,
excited
from
about
British
this, huh?
ruling to going back to,
To Chinese.
Chinese.
Yes,
Mm, mm,
yeah.
mm. So
1997.
So yeah, it
97.
was a international wise history books will talk about this.
Sure.
The handover. It's a big date actually. So my parents they booked some sort of some bureau, some flat, where they could have a nice view over the harbor to see actually
the Queen was there, right?
The Queen was not there. Are you crazy?
No?
No, was she? I don't
Why
remember.
was she
I don't
there
think so. I just remember this guy with the kilt who actually went off, and we saw his
I
ass
think
or something.
maybe I remember it wrong. I remember that was a big event. I remember
Maybe the
watching
Queen
something.
was there. Could be actually
I think
because
she was.
again that was a
The handover British and the Queen,
could be, or the Prime Minister for sure.
At least the
100%
Prime
sure.
Minister. That
we will check that. We will
We'll
see.
check.
Yes.
I'll
Google
check
is your
definitely
friend.
check, But so the thing is, we booked actually this whole thing to look at this massive firework, and the next day it was like a big thing on the news. Also looking at the whole ceremony, this kind of getting down the flags, getting up the Chinese flag, and it was history in the moment.
What was the community feeling? I mean, what we've experienced last year, we see all this animosity,
Right.
all this, yeah. But at that time, were people sad? The local people, were they sad? Were they unhappy? Were they worried? What was the temperature?
Well, people didn't know what to expect. People didn't know what to expect. As I said, speaking, my perspective is more on the foreigner expat kind of side.
And also,
Yeah, but on the
you were
ground.
10 also.
But you were on the ground.
So what I can say is, as we said earlier, is for instance, my parents, they were considering to buy a flat over there before the handover, and they just didn't do it because they didn't know what would happen when would all the foreigners get expelled within 1 year?
Well,
Could it be? We had no idea. So I don't know. People were just waiting and seeing.
Right.
And now it happened, and
Did it change looking back? Now you're older. You were 10 back then, but did it change Hong Kong? You think?
I don't see much change. Seriously, I don't see much change. There's been people speak a little bit more Mandarin now in the streets, right?
Right.
But in the everyday life, I did not see anything. Then again, I have like this expat kind of view. So I'm in even when I go back to Hong Kong, I'm still not deep down inside the Hong Kong culture. I always have like a sideway look or something. But then you hear also about these laws which they come through, trying to suppress the liberty of speech and everything. But at the end, as I feel, it does not change much of Hong Kong. And I don't know if ever we want to go in this subject, but at the end, for me, it's China and China. China is Hong Kong, and that's it.
At the
By
time,
law, now it's China.
At the time when you were young and it was still British, did you and your family ever venture into the mainland? Did you ever come for holiday to the?
You remember traveling here? To the mainland?
Yeah. I think, we went
Like
to
Great
Hainan.
Wall
We
or-
went to Hainan, like this and that. And it was maybe the visa was a little bit more difficult to get, but you were restricted in the destinations you could go to.
And where you stay, right? Like,
Like it's like
hotels.
foreigners hotels only.
Right.
And that's it. Yeah, but nothing bad,
Only Hainan?
I think we went like here and there also, but I don't remember
Okay.
again. Quite young, But Hainan for sure. Could be
Or
Shenzhen
Beijing.
definitely also.
Sure, of course.
Shenzhen definitely, as in going there. My mother loves shopping, so at that time
Shenzhen.
crazy,
Right.
I got lost once in the Shenzhen and Hong Kong kind of thing,
on the border.
the border,
Yeah.
and
Not
she
difficult
was
to-
so crazy,
Not
they were
difficult to find.
so
You're pretty
busy,
tall, blue-eyed, and white. So hey,
I was like 7 years old, so I was like short and everything.
Yeah. Anyone saw a French guy? A little one?
a little guelo.
Yeah. So you so the handover happened, and you studied in this French international school
All the way to graduation.
all through, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned that all your family, you have your 4,
Yeah.
right?
So my older brother, younger brother, and sister, all of the 4 of us did the whole schooling system, like French baccalaureate.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Please?
Did you have any kind of like romantic relationships during high school? Did you have like a girlfriend? Was it a Hong Kongese girl? Did you have a girlfriend during high school?
Yeah. A French girl.
French girlfriend.
Yeah.
No Hong Kongese
No.
girlfriend. No. Ever?
Later I did. When I worked in Hong Kong, I did.
Since
later,
you're
yeah.
asking this, I'd ask you. I mean, you live now in the mainland. You travel in the mainland. You've been for a long time. And any difference between Chinese girls from the mainland to those from Hong Kong?
Of course.
In what sense?
The culture is completely different, you know. The perspective on many things is very different, you know. And also now, you know, if I don't mean to say, but now it's 10 years later. So also now the mentally changed now so fast, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I don't...
But there is a difference.
There's definitely a difference.
But it
no?
used to be
But
that,
it's getting
that
smaller, maybe. That's what you mean?
the gap is being reduced.
I
think.
mean, culturally wise, you know, it's like a French... There's still a gap in culture, you know, and
Right.
they'll remain a gap in culture for a while, you know. I mean,
Mhm.
culture is something which cannot disappear right away, you know. And
Right.
speaking of Hong Kong, they have like a very strong culture at the end, you know. They have all this cinema, all this K-pop, you know,
Yeah.
all this thing which is really
Right.
Hong Kong thing, and they're very proud of, you know.
Right.
And they have all of this thing they can rest their culture on, you know, that they won't become like real Chinese, like as in mainland Chinese for a while, but you know, at the end, Hong Kong is Chinese.
And what about the expats? The difference between expats in the mainland to expats in Hong Kong?
Very obviously, you know, expats in China, they are way. They don't brag as much as expats
Hong
in Hong Kong. I
What
don't
do
know
they
if you
brag
noticed,
about?
but people are very proud to be expat in Hong Kong, as in they're living the life, like being very loud expats, you know,
like very jet setter.
yeah, very jet setters, huh? And here in China, that's quite different. People are way more casual, way
Right.
more
Down to earth.
relaxed somehow, and that's what I like actually. And I didn't like, and I had the feeling I saw like this Hong Kong expat jet setter kind of thing happening. It happened quite recently. Before in Hong Kong, you know, it was people were not, you know, it was their first time being an expat. You know, it was still adventurous or something. Now people come to Hong Kong like, you know, it's like a Saturday morning, you know, they move to Hong Kong, they're like so happy, and then they're like proud of it and different. Before it was like kind of still of an adventure. Think about this, before internet and everything.
Yeah.
You would come to Hong Kong, although, you know, had like this kind of British culture
Flair.
aspect, and, you know, you could find this and that. Well, before internet and all of this, it was still some big adventure. Now it's so
So
easy.
is it maybe because I mean, it's an expensive city, salaries are high, so it's like you think, oh, if I'm an expat in Hong Kong, I'm like I made it or something like that.
Could be definitely, you know.
How expensive it is? I mean, have you lived in Hong Kong in the last 10 years?
So
You have, yeah.
I worked over there for 2 years.
Right.
My first experience in the restaurant side of hotel management, and the cost of living over there is so high, and the salaries were actually, my salary maybe was so low that thank God I could actually just stay at my parents' place, who would still live
Right.
over there, you know.
Right.
Thank God, otherwise I don't know where I would have had to live.
What is
It's
the average
horrible.
salary in Hong Kong? I guess it changed over the years, but I mean, what was it 10, 20 years ago, and now is it? Do you know? Not just hotels. I mean, and
I think the minimum salary remains around. I don't mean to
18?
say anything because I'm sure I'm
Oh,
going
really?
to get wrong, but I want to say around 10,000 10,000
Hong Kong dollar, yeah.
dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Minimum, yeah, maybe sounds.
I
makes
remember
sense.
I thought at one point of moving to Hong Kong a few years into my time here in China. I came in the year 2000. And the consulate general said, like, look, if you don't earn 40,000,
Yes.
Oh yeah.
don't come.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I always-
if you're not making 40,000,
Yeah, Hong Kong
forget
can
it,
be
stay in
nice if
China.
you have money.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit to back to your childhood. We talked about 97, and you kept studying at the French International School, and then you were about to go to university. And what happened? We know you're working for hotels. So how did this? Where did you go to study?
So I was never quite sure about what to do as a job for a while. It took me a long time, and I think it was like when I was 17 or so that a great family friend of mine. It was actually during SARS. Being very honest, during SARS,
Oh, okay.
2000.
I was sent back
2005.
to.
2, 3.
I'm not so sure. 2003 maybe.
2 and 3.
Yeah, whatever. But I was sent back to France, and
Because of SARS.
because of SARS, because my mother was like scared of the situation. We were in
Right.
Hong Kong, and Hong Kong was hit hard, right?
Yeah.
So we were sent back to to France, and I finished my school year over there. So that's the longest time I spent in France totally, you know,
How long
back
was
to
that?
back. You know, that was like 4 months.
That's the longest time you spent in France
Yeah, as in back to back, like
Yeah.
not moving out of the French territory.
continuously. Yeah.
So then I spent that time with this family friend, and she taught me how to cook, and I really loved it. You know, she's Rosa Louis Olivier, Rosa and Louis Olivier. No, she's
Rosa?
like my grandma actually for me, and
Okay.
amazing. You know, she taught me how to school. She gave me this passion for the job, and then that's why I chose hospitality. But getting back to your question on how precisely I got there. So at the French International School, one day we had this big, like, classy guy coming in with a suit like this, and he gave us this whole speech about this famous international school, like in Switzerland, Lausanne, École Hotelier de Lausanne. This guy was awesome. He sold us the school like crazy. And after his speech, I was like, whoa, I want to go to this school like crazy.
I want to be this guy.
Yeah, you see? Kind of, you know.
Yeah.
And my mother eventually told me, if you know, this is a top school, this is an expensive school, you need to
It's
have
one of
good
the best in
results.
the world.
But if ever you, I was not a good student back then, you know. But she said, if ever you manage to get your grades up, if ever you manage to work hard, and if ever they accept you, we'll figure out a way. So, well, I can't say I really worked much harder, you know. But I did manage to get some good results, good enough at least to get in there, and that's it. You know?
What is the qualification? Like, oh, you really need to be. It's by
So-
grades. I mean, do you?
Yeah. Grades, and I guess, you know, there's somehow also somehow of
Connections.
I don't think could be connections. Obviously, you don't know, but you know, you need to work to speak a couple of foreign languages for
Right,
sure.
so
You know,
the other
because
things.
hotels, you know, that's something which is so important. you know.
Right.
So me speaking French, English, and Mandarin at that time, I'm
Right.
sure that helped me. You know, I may not have had as higher grades as some others, but because of this background I had, you know, I'm sure that helped out also. You know.
So anyone else from the school actually went there?
Yeah, actually, yeah, there were two of my school, and this guy was Swiss, and yeah, he got there also, but he got kicked out. He was not good enough.
Okay.
Sorry.
So you had the experience. You wanted to become a hotelier.
Yeah.
Hospitality.
Yeah.
You had the experience in France with your grandma or
Yeah,
someone
yeah,
like
yeah.
that,
You
grandma.
can say
yeah.
grandma.
Yes, and what else made you like? You grew up in Hong Kong. I guess Hong Kong is a lot of hotels,
And a lot
Yeah.
of tourists.
a lot
Yeah.
of tourists, a lot
Yeah.
of hospitality, right? Did that contribute?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any like stories from hotels in Hong Kong growing up?
I remember when I was a kid, you know, growing up in Hong Kong at that time. That was maybe I was not 10 years old, so that was before handover. Huh? So
Okay.
it was before 1997. Huh? I remember my dad used to be very much on top of the local news, you know, and especially looking at the news,
Like
what's
TV?
happening in Macau. And saying, you know, because over there back then the mafia was like way worse than right now, you know, and they there were some shootouts in front of hotels, you know, in front of the casinos like
In
this from
Macau,
time to
okay.
time. And whenever there was a shootout like this, my father would rush and book a room in the precise hotel right away, because he knew that all the room rates would be slashed like by tenfold or something, you know. And so we would actually spend some crazy weekends in Macau like this.
So that's a phone call. That's not booking.com. Back
Yeah,
then.
yeah. Back then there was no internet or nothing,
Right.
so you know, and then you had to look at that newspaper, as in a paper newspaper, to look at this kind of news, you know. So
Right.
it-
So really,
it's
the
crazy,
prices
you know?
went down because something happened in the
Yep.
neighborhood.
So your
Yeah,
father
yeah.
wanted to have the experience of that hotel at the shootout reduced price.
Yeah,
basically.
correct. You know.
Yeah, that is interesting. If you want a cheap room, look for a shootout.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you like Macau? You remember Macau from back then? You've been there a lot.
And I liked Macau back then, and I still like Macau now.
How
and
is
I
it?
still think that eventually, I hope I may eventually go there to work.
To work in Macau. Why?
Yeah,
Why?
yeah.
Why do you like in Macau so much?
I like the ambience over there, you know. The city being built on casino. Casino is very tricky. I did learn casino management also, you know. Casino is how how can I put it? It's sad, but because some people may have like some issues with it, as in they cannot control their urges in gambling, and that makes it sad,
Right.
But for those who can actually, control it, give themselves some sort of limit and everything, at the end, that's a great experience, Well, you end up losing very often, but at the end, you end up having fun,
Yeah.
The way I see it is, you go there, like you go to any attraction park, however, you
With a
spend
budget.
with a budget. And you stop it at
and
some
you
point,
spend the money, But a lot of people can control it.
and
so
that's the sad part of it, But
Right.
supposedly casinos are looking out for these people, and whenever
Supposedly.
they see someone crying on the floor, they're like, "Sir, you need help or something? We can figure it out."
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, that's what
payment
my
plans?
no, you will get you to another machine. No, that's
Right.
not this kind of help we're proposing.
So
you know?
We have Vaseline.
do you gamble? Do you go to Macau?
I do.
You do?
And I tend to win actually.
Which casino? Which casino do you like the most?
The funny thing is, my father worked in Hong Kong. He was actually then the civil engineer, right?
Okay.
I don't think we actually mentioned it.
Civil engineer.
But he was working as a civil engineer, working in big construction projects. And speaking of Macau, he was one of the many engineers involved in the project of the Venetian.
The Venetian.
Yeah. So when I go to Macau, now I always go to the Venetian.
My dad built this.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad is so much stronger than yours.
That's
I don't know,
Yeah.
but that's always fun.
Yeah.
All right, good. So, guys, we're going to take a very, very short break and we'll be back with you. And we're going to continue this very interesting chat with Ludovic. Okay, see you guys in a second. All right, guys, so we're back with Ludovic and we are going to start this section with a game. The game is called This or That. So the idea is very simple, Ludovic. We're going to ask you a couple of choices and you tell us what your choice is and
Okay.
give us a little bit of an explanation based on, well, whatever reason you had for choosing. So, Ziv, why don't you begin?
All right. First one. Cantonese or Mandarin? Which one you prefer?
Oh, Mandarin. Much easier to learn, much easier to speak. There's not like 9 tones, it's just 6.
Yeah.
Although Cantonese does sound a little bit funnier, I think it's just easier to pronounce the Mandarin.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's way more useful somehow.
I thought there were
and
only
that's the one I speak. So
That's the one you speak, yes.
I thought there were only 4 tones in Mandarin. You said
4,
6?
and then the 5th one is the natural one.
Okay.
they say.
yeah.
But you said 6.
I don't even count those anymore, And I try to speak fast enough for people not to pay attention on the tones I actually say.
That's what people tell me. That's the best advice they give me. Just
Yeah.
speak fast.
Yeah, that's true actually.
All right, I'm gonna give you I'm a car enthusiast, so I'm gonna ask you a
I'm
question.
not a car enthusiast, so.
But
okay,
anyway,
go
you're
ahead.
French, so Renault, Peugeot, or Citroën.
Oh, I'll say Citroën actually. Citroën because we used to have this car. There was this Citroën, like this very
Leader?
famous car. Can't even say the name. I think. No, I'm not a car enthusiast. But anyway, Citroën sounds like more of my kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there was this.
Citroën, yeah. That's,
CV2.
I forgot about that brand.
The
Deux chevaux.
CV2, la
Le
deux
deux
chevaux.
chevaux,
Oh yeah, that's only for that. Oh, definitely. But there's also this other one which was kind of aerodynamic, like one of the first models like this. I forgot the name of that car, but very famous in France.
Let's move on because Fernando can talk about cars for the rest of this podcast.
And French.
All right. Next one is Wan Chai or Tim Chateau?
Well, one chai.
One chai.
Yeah. When
You
I was in
prefer-
Hong Kong, it was one chai all night long.
Tim Chateau was like, that area.
I would go there, but not that often. But definitely one chai. Definitely one chai.
Right.
I'm a one chai guy.
Okay.
One Child was the place that broke the one-child policy.
one child. Yeah.
All right. Talking about your F&B experience, what's harder, working a restaurant that offers buffet or à la carte?
It's 2 different concepts. I find it more satisfying, the a la carte one, because you usually have less people to handle, as in less guests, and you can spend more time with all guests to speak with and to ensure like their proper their satisfaction.
experience.
Yeah.
In terms of the logistics,
In terms of logistics, I guess also easier to handle a la carte restaurant, as in it's much easier to. You don't have to handle a crowd the same way, you know. The thing is, buffet restaurant. It's the trick thing is, you know, you have to handle like some big numbers.
Okay. Let me continue with another question. You worked with hotels, right? What is better, to work at an international chain or a boutique hotel?
So I think you meant to ask in an international chain or a standalone hotel, as in not being owned by, not being
But
managed by any international brand or anything. Pros and cons both, you know. Pros for the international hotel is you know where you're going, you know. You have strict standards, you know.
Yeah.
And you have all these you know, these standards which are very effective, which are given to you by the head office, and you just know that's the standard, that's how it has to go. That's pure and simple. But, you know, in a standalone hotel, then you have to be much more self-reliant, you know. You have you have to be the force to drive everyone by yourself, you know. You have to know what you want. You have to put up your standards by yourself, and there's not going to be any head office control over it. So, you know, yeah.
I see. Okay. Let me continue with another question. Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan?
Oh, Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan will kick the Bruce Lee's ass, huh, you know? Yeah, he'll pick up a chair and he'll do, you know, things like Bruce Lee. He can't even do anything.
Is it because you are younger? What would your dad say?
I don't know, actually. Maybe he would say Bruce Lee. Yeah. I know where you're going. Maybe he would say Bruce Lee, but I still think Jackie Chan would whoop Bruce Lee's ass.
All right, the next one. My question is: a swimming pool or the beach?
Swimming pool, definitely. I hate sands in my feet, you know.
You do?
The chemicals in the swimming pool?
I don't mind, you know, with the amount of cigarettes I smoke per day, with my all bad lifestyle. I don't mind a little bit of chlor, you know, when I swim.
Since you say that, I'll ask another question: a smoking room or a non-smoking room?
A non-smoking room, actually.
Even though you smoke.
Even though I smoke. Yeah.
Good answer.
Yeah, no, definitely, you know.
Is it really complicated to clean the smell of cigarettes in a room? Really?
Well, yeah. Because you for one thing, you don't try to clean it. You try to ensure that there's good enough ventilation, so you don't even need to clean it, you know. And then also for instance, those ashtrays you would set up all over. You know, try to put the trick in the hotel industry is actually to put this coffee powder, you know.
Okay, in the ashtray.
Like in the ashtray. So once you actually turn off, you crush your butt inside this one.
The smell.
It will like kill the cigarette right away. All the ashes will turn off, and the coffee powder will actually absorb all of the smell.
So it's the used coffee after the coffee is made. I've seen it in some coffee shops.
Yeah. That's a trick, you know, very effective.
All right, you have another question?
You go.
All right, I go for another one. That's a nice one. Dim sum or French toast?
Depends on how much I drank the night
Together.
the before day, you know. If ever it's on a bad, you know, hangover day, dim sum, definitely.
Fantastic.
You know?
All right.
All right. Let me finish my set of questions. In Hong Kong, taxi or subway?
Oh, I like the subway in Hong Kong. Oh yeah, I like the subway in Hong Kong. Actually, I spent a lot of time in the subway, you know, moving around, because we eventually moved on the Kowloon side, and further. We eventually even lived in what's the name? Sai Kung in Hong Kong. So that's quite far, you know.
It's a nice area.
Up the peninsula.
But the subway in Hong Kong is crazy clean, crazy efficient, you know. So when you know on which stations you need to change, it's so effective. You know.
It's really nice. I remember the first day I arrived in Hong Kong, and going into the subway, I like, what? It's a lot of you know, a lot of information. Yes, and I come from a country we don't have subways, so yeah.
I saw the subway in Paris. You know, like way after I was very much used to the subway in Hong Kong. And I went to Paris. I was like, "Oh my God, this is the third world or something." You know, that could be Nigeria or something.
Yes.
Seriously, I was so shocked. You know.
And the last one, suits, tailor-made or just from the rack?
I'm a big guy, so I need to have it, kind of tailor-made. Otherwise, that's,
But do you
that's not as nice.
accept the call from the Indian guys on Sintatway? So tailor-made.
I have to admit a little bit ashamed that I had a couple of suits done over there
Yeah?
also.
We will talk.
I don't have the cash to actually go for like any big shops like this. And at the end of the day, I think you go to some big brand for a nice suit will definitely give you a nice piece of cloth, But I don't think for the difference in the amount spent. I don't think it worth
The
it.
quality is not.
Yeah.
We will get to much more about suits when we talk more about hotels. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, that was this or that. So, Ziv, let's continue talking about
I wanted to
Ludovic's
ask,
experience. Yeah.
I wanted to ask. I want to go back all the way and ask you. You moved to Hong Kong when you were 2 months old. Why? Why did your family move there?
So to give
In
a
the
little bit of context. So that's my father who went there to work. So my father was sent there as an expat, but it was not even his first mission as an expat. His first expat mission was when he was sent to Nigeria. I can't really say the date. I think that was 1980.
That
Middle
really
of the
sounds like a
1980s,
mission.
Dude, that was the civil war over there. He told me some stories, of I don't think any of us can actually figure out, that was a mess over there. So he was there for a couple of years. Then he went back to France, just real quick. And then his second mission as an expat, as I remember, is Iraq.
Oh, wow.
And that was during the first Gulf War.
As an engineer.
As an engineer.
1991,
I think he
I
was
guess,
building some sort
1990.
of bunkers for Saddam Hussein at that time. Seriously, actually. I think there was some sort of like weird things.
He was okay.
It's
That's
like
a rabbit hole we could go
That's a rabbit hole,
for
yeah.
a completely
I
new
don't know if
podcast.
can we call him like?
Unfortunately, you can ask, but I don't know much.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of secret over there.
Is he okay? So engineer, he went to many places. You're saying you call
Yeah.
it expat missions almost.
Yeah,
Is it there was no enough work in France, or I don't know if you know, or was it more lucrative?
No, it was definitely more lucrative, and I think that's always what he wanted to do.
Okay, he
you know.
was
And
adventurous.
also, and at this point, he knew also that, and same like now, and back then it was even more. As in, if you dare to go on this kind of expat missions, then you usually have a kind of a short track on your career. You you
What do you
go
mean?
there, you get some experience where you could not get back home.
Okay.
Speaking for myself,
More unique.
Of course. Yeah, and then, because you bring some sort of expertise and some sort of knowledge to some places where they don't have, so which they will. So you will end up doing some new things, some things which you would have to wait much longer if ever you would to stay back home to actually do this kind of job. I know if ever that's
Right.
clear what I'm saying.
Let me see. So the learning curve is
Right.
faster,
Much faster.
in these foreign places, in
Right,
this
right,
expat
right,
jobs
right,
than
right.
it is. Okay, I
I
understand.
think many people can relate to this. Same thing with me in my job right here, right now.
Right.
If
Yes.
ever I would think to stay, if ever I was to stay in France, like I'm 32 years old. Although I have like some sweet experience in this and that, I don't think I would need to wait maybe 10 more years before getting to my actual position now, as in like departmental manager. Overlooking few different restaurants.
Right. You're pretty young you move faster because of the experience.
Yeah. And that was the case back then, and I think that was even more the case.
Right.
As in, there was way less people willing to move around.
So your father did a few expat missions, as you said, and that's how eventually he
Eventually, he
Ended
got
up
in
in
Hong
Hong
Kong.
Kong.
But you told us before that when in your childhood every year you thought you're going to go back to France.
Yep.
Every year, moving in the end of the year or something like that. Tell us a little bit about that. Why was that?
Well, so as I said earlier, basically we got to Hong Kong because my father was sent there. My mother eventually found a job, but it was really because my father had his job in Hong Kong that we stayed there. And my father, as a civil engineer, he was just hired on certain projects, you know.
Yeah.
And his projects
Project based.
Yeah. And basically, when the project was finished, they maybe did not had anything else to do in afterwards. So as a kid, I grew up in Hong Kong, thinking that every next year we would move out, because that's what my father would say. He would say, our project here is pretty much done. Seems there's nothing much for us to do in the future, so we may actually go back to Hong Kong.
So go break up
France,
with your girlfriend.
Yes.
And basically, fortunately, never happened. He kept on having some
I
new
guess-
projects or things, and we stayed over there for 30
I
years.
guess after a few years, you're like, yeah, Dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
I would always believe him, but my friends were like, dude, okay, you say this every year. You
Yeah.
know, we
You're
know
not
you're
going
going
anywhere.
to stay here, Yeah.
So, and your parents just moved back to France.
Recently.
They moved back to Europe recently.
To Europe, sorry.
But my parents moved to England.
To England.
Yeah.
Are your father
England.
still doing his work?
Engineering?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he's
Okay.
getting crazy in England, actually.
He's getting a
because
lot of
too
work,
many
you mean?
English over there.
Ah, too many British.
Yeah. Very
I
tough on
see.
him. Very,
You're,
very
you're
tough.
French and British. Okay, I don't know if we go into that.
Alonso Fonte
No, you get me onto this, no problem. I can speak like for hours about how I hate.
This doesn't matter if
British,
you're French in France or not. It's like that, or is it maybe even more when you live in an expat with others?
I thought about this, and is it maybe some sort of I want to show myself more as French, because I didn't live more that much in France, so that's why I kind of have this difficult relationship with the English. And now looking at the actual situation with the
Brexit.
England, Brexit, that French General de Gaulle, he was so right. We never should have let them in at the very beginning. They've been killing us, killing
His
this
passion is
European
coming
dream
out
from the
now.
beginning.
Yeah.
No. But at the end, I'm a very much pro-European also.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's just the way the world is going out, You see, like France by itself, 60 million inhabitants, as much as it's a wealthy country, is nothing compared to China, is nothing compared to US, is nothing compared even you give it a couple of years, India will get there, Brazil will get there, and it's not like France, England, or even Germany. Eventually, it's nothing, So we Europeans are just stronger together,
Right.
And it's so European Union, that's the future for me. And
How would the Brexit affect your father if he's working right now in England?
I don't think eventually, if the Brexit really happens, and it will eventually, those people who there's many people who, even though whatever their job is in Britain, are still very valuable for England,
Sure.
So I'm talking about my father as an engineer over there. So he's valuable because he brings some sort of knowledge. But I mean any other kind of people, and even some low wages kind of work. It's still like some sort of workforce that England desperately needs.
Mm-hmm.
Because England, like any European country, is kind of aging somehow. And so that's why the governments, good thing, bad thing, that's a long debate, whatever. But we Europeans need this kind of force, labor.
Mm-hmm.
And
Question in terms of being an European, your father being in England, and how do you prefer to get paid? I mean, how does your father get paid? Does he get paid in pounds, in euros, in francs? Oh, I don't know. Well, francs no longer.
no
yeah,
longer,
no,
yeah.
no more francs.
I
Actually.
hope they don't
francs.
pay him in
Swiss
francs.
Yeah, well, he's not being paid in Swiss francs.
That's for sure.
Speaking for myself, when I was proposed to work here in Dongguan for this hotel, I asked to have my salary based on a US dollar amount.
Okay. That's totally different continent. Yeah. You're talking about.
And then, but him, well, my father is like the old school expat, as in, He has a French contract, even though being expat. So basically, he still gets to pay he still gets to pay all of his retirement funds and everything
In France.
in France. Although not working in France, And now, as an expat, especially it's very hard to get this kind of deals,
Right.
So, for instance, myself, I don't, if I get back to France, I won't have any social benefits or anything because I'm completely cut off out of the system over there. So he's like the old school, and
So your father is planning to one day retire in France. In France.
Yeah.
How about you?
I have no clue.
You have no clue. It's too early to say, right?
Yeah. I guess eventually I'll have to actually go for some sort of private retirement pension or something where I have to put some cash in it. But
What when you so you live in the mainland, you're here in Dongguan in China and before in Hong Kong. What when you meet Chinese people and they learn you're French, what's the stereotype from Chinese people's side about French people? What do you get?
You must be so romantic.
Romantic, really?
Yeah, always.
Paris.
That's the first thing they always say. Oh, you must be so romantic.
So
And
it must be good.
That's romantic.
Must be good with girls.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
That the blue eyes also help a lot. The blue eyes. That's even better than being French.
Right.
You must be so romantic. Cook me something.
And what else? What else? Anything else?
No, romantic. That's the main
text,
stereotype.
text,
Seriously, this
text
is
the cake.
romantic. Yeah,
Romantic.
yeah. And usually it does not go
It's
much
interesting.
further
I
than
don't know.
this,
I
think.
get smart
Huh?
for being Jewish.
Oh yeah, good with maths.
I don't want to tell what I get.
We know what you get, Fernando. So all right, let's talk a little bit more about your career, which is very interesting. As you are a hotelier, you studied in Switzerland in a very famous school, and where did you work after that? How did you start your career in the hotel? Like the path.
So,
What was your first hotel job?
my first hotel job I was working in Geneva. At the Intercontinental over there, as a receptionist. At first, when I started the career in hotel, I really wanted to do some sort of more in the hotel business than in the restaurant business. Because from the beginning, I knew that the hotel industry as itself is a difficult business because it's very much completely off schedule. As in, you're the busiest time of year is when everyone is on vacation. So Christmas, New Year, Easter, whatever.
August.
So this is all over the world. It's the same, right? For hotels.
Yeah.
It's long hours.
Yeah.
In a suit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so my first, then I went for when I worked over there in Switzerland. I worked over there for a little while, and I got kind of my first experience was not the easiest one. It was a little bit hard. And at that point, I was like, okay, I want to take a break. I want to take the gap year and travel a bit. So I went to China and travel like this for a little bit over 6 months. That was amazing. Backpacking, yeah.
In the mainland.
In mainland, yeah.
That was something you always planned. You wanted to do. I went backpacking in India for a year, which was great.
Yeah,
which is very important for who I am now. But yeah, I mean China.
Backpacking was always something I wanted to do, trying to do something, I think that's I don't know if ever you did it by yourself.
I went with 4 friends, and after 2 weeks I met a girl. So I said, bye, friends. And that girl is how I came to China in the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I came to China from India with a guitar on my back, long hair.
Seriously?
Yes. So, it's all like, it was meant to be.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So backpacking is very important. Did you backpack?
I did backpack in the US, but
the US is
not that much.
Can be nice too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Basically,
West
motorcycle?
Coast. No, just hitchhiking.
Hitchhiking. That's cool. Very cool. Yeah.
Risky, but yeah.
Yeah. So you did it in China. What kind of places you went to?
So I started off in Xinjiang. So I took basically my plan was to take just the train all over China. I had more or less an idea of what I wanted to do. Like the major cities, what I wanted to go. but I had no schedule or anything. I just saw, okay, I told myself, like, you have 7 months more or less. You try to do whatever you want to within that time. There's this kind of cities, like, I was like, okay, that's something cool I want to go to. And that's it. Boom. I just took the plane from Hong Kong, got landed in middle of Xinjiang in Urumqi. The funny thing, it was the Golden Week at that time. I didn't think about this. And there were no hotels available, nothing. You know, I got there, I was like, whoa.
You didn't book anything.
I didn't book anything. I spent 6 months over without booking a single room ahead. And that was amazing. You know?
Wow.
Yeah. That was so cool, actually.
Just a side question. What did your parents think?
I don't know. They were happy. I know,
Yeah?
but they were not. You know, again, you know, somehow I speak Chinese. I lived in China for a while. I'm a big guy. You know, they were not that. You know,
Not
and
that
we all know
scared.
actually that Hong Kong is kind of and I mean China is a safe place to travel.
Very safe.
It is.
It is very safe.
But
There's nothing which can happen. You know?
Xinjiang had some issues, or at least it's on the news. I don't know if it was
well,
back
But probably
then.
recently, not back
But
then.
still,
Back
7
then-
years, 8 years ago. I mean,
Yeah, I guess there was already a little bit.
I had the
a
same
little bit
Golden
of
Week
something.
experience when I first got here. Ended up in Wailing, no hotels. And I'm
Oh
like,
yeah,
yeah.
it's crazy. It was
was
crazy.
bad.
You know.
Did
I thought I would sleep on the street for my first night out.
was
I was
there,
like,
are there any restrictions to go to Xinjiang nowadays, or
oh yeah. I think
nowadays
so.
there are
Yeah,
restrictions,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not so
yeah,
easy. You cannot just
yeah.
go there.
You need to get a permit, like you need to get a permit to Tibet, for example.
Okay,
Mhm.
like
Lhasa.
that.
Like in Tibet, you need to go in a group, I believe, and there need to
Yep.
be a tour guide.
Yes, you cannot just
Wander
go by
the
yourself.
streets, yeah.
So you went to Xinjiang, which is where the population is Chinese Muslim, right? Is it, how many? I mean, it's all of them are Muslims there?
It's 50-50.
50-50.
50.
And what's the other 50?
Hmm?
Was the other 50
Is it Han?
agnostic or?
So yeah, it's 50% Han, 50% Uyghur.
Han is just a
The
common
regular
Chinese
Chinese, yeah.
ethnicity.
Chinese ethnicity,
Yes.
Chinese culture.
Yes.
So to give a little bit of context, the Xinjiang was conquered by, I believe that's the Qing dynasty, like a couple of centuries ago, 2 or 3 centuries ago. So that's why the Han eventually said, okay, that belongs to the Chinese Empire.
So before it was Ottoman, what was it?
Before it was autonomous. It was autonomous as in it was like Uyghuristan. It was
Okay.
a self-governed country. And then, it was conquered by the Qing dynasty. And then it got to be autonomous again for a while. And then it got to be under the rule of Chinese. And then once the PCR actually got into power, they went over there and said, you know, you want to join us in this adventure? And they first said yes, the Uyghur, and now, you know, there's more and more Han people living over there. Before, like 100 years ago, it was maybe 5% Han, 90% Uyghur. Now that's 50-50.
So now it's more.
To say a little bit of the country.
Right. So that's where you started your backpacking trip.
That was amazing.
All right.
Amazing, like another planet over there.
You mentioned something about wanting to be the only one.
Yeah. No, you go on this kind of quests, adventures. You're like, you want to do something special. You want to be like, I wanted to have this once in a lifetime trip, and I hope that it would be like something so special that, you know, I would be the only one to do, you know.
So you saw any other foreigners there?
Yeah. I saw one over there that really ruined the whole thing. I was like, oh, goddamn.
I thought this was my lonely planet.
Yeah.
So there were not
seriously.
many, though.
There was not that many.
Not many.
There was not that
You
many.
saw just a couple.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the one thing you remember from Xinjiang that was really good?
The lamb skewers.
Lamb skewer. Fernando's
Rochuan.
favorite.
I'm gonna open a Yang Rochuan stand somewhere.
My dream was to open like the Xinjiang restaurants, like the one here, back home. I mean, you
that's
don't
amazing.
have them. You don't have them, right? Chinese food is
Flavors
just
are amazing, actually. you
yes.
know?
In France, any
Oh, I'm sure actually that would actually work nicely also. You know,
Right.
we have this lamb culture, no problem at all. People
Right.
would eat it a lot.
Right.
But, you know, jokes aside, Xinjiang also is that's another planet. Seriously, you get to see some sceneries which are just wow, out of this world. You know, I went to the border in between China and Kazakhstan. Over there, it's like you're like at 3,000 meters up high in the mountain.
Right.
It's like semi-desertic. It's amazing, you know. Wow,
Sounds quite
crazy.
amazing. All right, so we will keep talking about your amazing trip and your hotel career right after the break.
Okay, guys, don't go anywhere. All right, guys, and we are back with Ludo. And we are going to go into our second game of this podcast, which is What's Up With That? Now, Ludovic, what we are going to do is, well, Ziv has gone through your social media. And he's picked a couple of pictures that he's going to show you.
I would say that actually Ludo's social media is pretty much non-existent.
Ha ha ha! I'm hidden, you know.
But I still have a couple of photos.
Shit. That's usually the bad ones, actually.
I mean, because you did appear at some photos in here Dongguan. And and also you do have one photo on your WeChat account that is your profile photo. That is a very interesting one. We kind of spoke about your trip around China. I have a feeling that it's related.
Yeah.
This is the one.
That's the one. Yeah, that's
This
that's my highest game in my life. I know.
That's the
And
best
from
moment.
that moment, from
That's
that
your
moment
dating
onwards,
profile.
I know
Going
it's all
down.
down. It's all down. You know. Now I'll never look as sexy
Doesn't
as
look
that
like the
picture.
same person.
I
Honestly.
have exactly the same kind of picture.
Yeah. We
by
all
the
have
beach.
actually, and we all know now. That's
I do have to,
the top moment. You know.
So this is like
That's
what
Xinjiang,
7?
that's,
This is Xinjiang.
That's Xinjiang.
It looked like
That's
Russell
the lake
Crowe.
of Karakul.
This is
It's
where they say, "Oh, romantic."
Yeah. They
That's
see
right.
this, the blue eyes, you know,
Yeah.
the beard, long hair.
The
you know,
Russell
that's
Crowe
it.
look.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
tan, yeah.
For my one-liner before to get a girl was I showed this picture. The girls were like, "Oh, wow, that's so cool," you know. And I didn't know needed to do much more, you know.
You just said a couple of lamb skewers before that. All right.
that
So,
was
so this is a
amazing
beautiful
one.
area. What's the name of this
The
lake?
The Lake
Oh,
Karakul,
Karakul,
so next to
okay.
the Kazakhstan border.
Okay.
How high was it?
Like above 3,000 meters high. And amazing, you know. I stayed in a small yurt like this with the local inhabitants. They were like sheep herders or something. I bought this like a trip with some sort of travel agent, so not really like the pure adventure because it was all prepared, but you know the experience was there still. The
Yes,
experience,
still-
you know, in middle of nowhere.
Looks
Wow,
beautiful,
that was something. Really.
Looks beautiful, and I don't mean you, but
You can say, you can still
yeah,
say.
but yeah, you can still have this moment in the future. You're still young.
Yeah.
All right. So the next picture photo that I have is this one. As you see, someone with a suit inside
Yep.
the swimming
Yep,
pool
yep.
here.
Well, you know, Xiale.
Yes. Well, what is that? This is the hotel you're working for now. What's
That's
the name?
right. The Dongcheng International Hotel.
Right.
And so that was the DGFC, Dongcheng French Connection party. So that's
Right.
basically all the Frenchies in Dongguan who actually come to
Come
our
together
social
to-
gathering events. And that was a party which we had, I think that was November last year, if I'm correct. And
So
so it was a swimming pool party, and you know, for the whole day, actually, everyone was trying to push me in the water or whatever. I said, the first one who does it, I throw him off the roof, you know.
Yeah. This
And-
is a swimming pool on the roof.
Yeah. Rooftop swimming pool. Amazing
Right,
place.
right.
Really, really cool, actually.
For those people who are listening to us on the podcast, what you actually see is a man in a suit in a pool.
Yeah.
So how did that happen, man?
So actually, for the whole night, actually, everyone tried to push me into the pool. So I knew eventually, you know,
gonna happen.
I didn't want it to be a buzzkill. I knew I had to make it happen somehow. So the funny thing is, on that same night, it was the Rugby World Cup Grand Final.
Right.
So it was South Africa, England, you know.
Uh-huh.
And me being French with my
Go South
dear
Africans.
loving England, you know, I told my friends, you know, if ever England loses the game, that's how I said it. It's not that I wanted South Africa to win. I wanted England to lose.
Of
The
course.
deal was if England loses the game,
Right.
then I'll jump into the pool.
So
and then England lost, then I jumped happily
you-
into the pool.
You just jumped.
Yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
pushed you.
Nobody pushed me.
Right, I remember. I was there.
The
This
thing
is
is,
a-
as I saw the game and I knew like, okay, now that's really happening, I got ready. I removed all my telephone, I
electronics, yeah.
removed all my things from my pockets, kept the tie, kept the whole thing, kept the shoes also, shoes which are now dead, you know.
But one thing though, I'm pretty sure that you would have ended up in the pool,
Oh, yeah, for
even
sure.
if England
Oh
won,
yeah,
right?
of course.
You
of
know
course.
it's
but
going
that
to
would have
happen.
been a very different mood, you know.
This, this sounds like a very, of course, France moment.
Of course, France, yeah.
Yeah.
France didn't win, but England lost.
So that big France win.
Yes. All
England
right.
losing, it's a French win.
Cool. Okay, so that was What's Up With That with Ludovic. Okay, let's continue talking about your career. We were talking about
Right, we're talking
your-
about the traveling a bit, and then
Sure.
you did Xinjiang, you traveled in China, you did your backpacking experience, which for a few months, right? How many months?
So that was a little bit over 6 months.
Okay.
7 months more or less.
All right. You were sad to finish that?
Oh yeah, of course, you know.
Yeah.
Then it was back to real life, you know. You have to find a job to eat. You have to, you know.
So you went
have
back to
work
Hong Kong to your
life.
parents,
Right.
your parents'
right,
house.
Right.
Then you were trying to find a job. How was that? What did you find?
So it took me a while actually to get back to find a job, obviously, because I did not had much working experience. I had some sort of high expectations in terms of job. You know, I didn't want it to be a waiter. I didn't want it to be a receptionist or anything.
By that time, you did the reception only.
Yeah, yeah.
Right,
yeah,
before
yeah.
the
in
trip.
Switzerland, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and at that time when I got back, I was like, okay, now I speak like decent Chinese,
Right.
fluent French, fluent English. I have some sort of education background or whatever. So although I'm lacking on the professional experience, I did had some other background, you know, which I hope I could actually make it work. So the hotel, like at that moment, I was still very much into working in hotels, as in the reception area, but could not find much. So eventually, French connections, you know, I get to meet a couple of people. I met Monsieur Jérôme Stubert, the former general manager of the Novotel Century in Wanshai, and that's where I ended up working.
And the
in the
Novotel
food
is
and beverage.
French.
Novotel is a French brand.
It
Yeah, from
belongs
Accor.
to Accor,
Yeah.
right? One of their brands.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And quite big in Hong Kong.
They have
a
a
couple,
few
right?
hotels.
Yeah,
They
okay.
have like I believe that's 4 ABs and at least 3 or 4.
Yeah, Novotel.
Yeah, yeah.
I studied
There's
in
a
a couple of
Pullman
them,
also
yes.
maybe now.
So you met the GM from that
Yep.
Novotel,
Yep, yep.
and he was a French.
He was French, and you know, we discussed a bit. At first, he did not consider my application for his own hotel. He was like, "Well, you have an interesting background and everything." So he tried to help me out, like in some other hotels around here and there. It did not work out. So eventually, I got back to him, and he said, "You know what? If ever you're ready to work for minimum wage, and if ever you're ready to, you know." And you're okay to work in the food and beverage, we may need actually some sort of some people with your kind of language skills and background to help out. So that was my first experience in the food and beverage industry. I was like not quite assistant to the F&B manager, but I was in the F&B admin, but very much in the floor on the floor also, as in, you know, doing service, table service. And
Are there many French working in hotels in Hong Kong?
In the F&B more and more, but lately I have the feeling there's plenty who came to open like some small restaurants, bigger, smaller.
More than
yeah,
working
yeah,
for hotels,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's where Novotel.
That was Novotel.
How long you worked there? How was the experience?
That was 2 years. It was a tough experience, being very honest. And the hotel was already 15 years old. Nice building, but because it was an old hotel, you know, all the processes and all the culture was like an quite an old style of management, you know.
Which Novotel was it?
The one in Wanchai.
The one in
The one in
Wanchai.
Wanchai, right,
Yeah,
okay,
on
so-
Lockhart Road, actually.
Okay.
Very
stayed at that
convenient for
hotel.
me, you
I
know.
stayed
Wanchai
there.
boy, very convenient for me, you know. But yeah, it was a tough place because, you know, old structure, old management style. I learned a good deal out of it, you know. That's very much of I learned on how to be very efficient with low manpower and everything. So the good things to take from it, and yeah. So from that, I worked over there for 2 years. And I'll just jump to the next part, which is so much sexier, is when I looked for another job and I actually landed up in Maldives.
Maldives.
Yeah. That was actually, again, French connections, you know. I was looking for a job actively. I started to speak to friends here and there. And eventually I heard that there was this hotel in Maldives looking for someone to handle a restaurant. And that my language skills seem to be doing the cut, you know, because seems like the new general manager of the hotel over there was looking to build up the Chinese market in their hotel. So that's why I went there.
So what was the job?
Restaurant and bar manager over there, the Sea Grill and Sand Bar. Amazing. Seriously, paradise destination. Great experience. The general manager very much helping, as in he would have like 100% trust in me. I had any ideas I had, he would just say, go ahead, you know, do whatever you want. So that's one of my best memories as in a working experience, because after 2 years of working over there, you would not recognize the restaurant at all. You know, the whole thing completely changed, you know. I do hope for the better. I do think for the better. That was amazing. That was seriously cool.
What is the main thing? What is the main complaint you have in F&B in hotels from guests? What's the main issues that?
And are there
you may
different between Chinese guests and foreigner guests? Do they have different complaints?
So the main complaints, I would say, usually it's always about service speed. You know, people being a little bit, you know, upset that the food takes a little bit time, that the beverage takes a little bit time, you know. So that's the regular complaint.
So it's like in other restaurants, not just hotels, I guess.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah,
everywhere,
yeah.
you know.
Okay.
Obviously, that's everywhere. Then, obviously, also, I have the feeling, and that's more of because the modern culture or something, you know. Now people, they think that they know about food. They know about their food experts, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry, but
everybody's
it's not
a
because
foodie.
you go to the restaurant once a week that you can start to say anything about my
Right.
food. Still, people will start to think that they can criticize the way your chef cook without knowing anything how to cook themselves. And
Give
that
us an
I get
example.
Well, I can send like 1,000 examples about this. You know, people saying, "Oh, the steak is not done properly. The steak is over salty or whatever." You know, every kind.
But
of
isn't it?
fucking
I mean,
food.
just
sorry for the language.
to
but
defend-
it's crazy. You know.
to be on the side of those people, isn't it like taste is a very subjective thing? It's a very
Yeah.
right?
So that's not being on the side of these people. I mean, it's a very subjective thing. You don't like it? Right.
You mean-
okay. But I have 1,500 people sitting next to you who
Right.
says it's okay. So
Right.
who are you to say this? You know,
Right,
you're
right.
not happy.
You
just
mean
go
they can
away,
say
you know?
it's not the right way?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they can
Yeah,
say
yeah.
I
They
don't
don't
like
like
it.
They can say
Right.
it's not suitable to my
Right,
taste, you
you're
know,
right,
but they
yes.
can't say it's not good, you know.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
or that is not done correctly.
Because my
Yeah,
only
yeah,
job
yeah.
in the F&B business, it was bartender in a coffee shop, and the coffee was always either too hot or too cold, or like it's not. Yeah,
People are never satisfied, you
Yes.
know.
The best thing is make it very hot and let people wait.
yeah. But people are not so reasonable. Sometimes.
What about the customers? The Chinese customer and the foreign customer, is there a difference? And what kind of difference can you notice?
I think Chinese customers, they don't complain much, actually. Not to your
Really?
face. Seriously. When especially when
Not
me as a
maybe-
manager, you know, whenever I had like Chinese guests, I guess, you know, the fact that I speak Chinese, you know, that I lived in China for so long, you know, I had always the Chinese guest. I was a rock star in Maldives over
Because
there,
you could
know?
speak the
Because I
language.
speak Chinese, you know. And then eventually, when I was in Maldives, the thing is, we had up to 90% of our guests who were from China.
Wow.
Oh, and you don't know how crazy it is, because it was maybe 200 guests per day over there. So that's 180 people. Yeah. And the thing is, there was just 3 of us speaking Chinese in the hotel.
Oh my
There
God.
was me. There was like a Thai girl in the reception. You know, she could speak a few words, you know. And there was this Chinese trainee. And I can tell you, you know, the guests, they were coming to me to ask me any kind of questions, you know. They were like, so obviously, and we had a good rapport, and they were like, "Oh, that's so cool! Actually, you're a Westerner speaking Chinese like this. That's so fun,
This was a rich Chinese, right? Because you said that the room per night was not cheap.
Oh yeah. That's the two for again context: 1,000 to 2,500 USD per night to stay in
I
this
have
kind
a
of
question.
hotels.
I have seen advertised trips to Maldives for like 5,000 renminbi. How does that happen? I mean, like literally, air tickets, hotel, like 3 or 4 nights or whatever. Is it different islands, different hotels, different?
So in Maldives, so you may know that it's
Lots
one
of
country
islands.
with like thousands of different islands. So it's basically one island, one hotel.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so the hotel I was there was just 100 rooms. Some other hotels would not be some nice
It's like a
bungalow
tiny,
in the
it's
middle
like a tiny island.
yeah, tiny island. The one I was in was like 100-meter long, and I think 150 meters. So opposite
Wow.
way around. 150 meters long, 100-meter wide. So like
Wow.
as a teardrop shape.
Wow.
So basically, you could walk around the island within 20 minutes.
Wow.
How do you get away from people?
You don't get away from
you
people.
don't. You lock yourself in your room. Well,
Wow.
No,
Wow.
that was a little bit. That's the tough
How-
part
how
about
often did
working
you-
in Maldives. Actually,
How often did you go off the island?
once a year.
Once
a
a year,
year.
you
Once
went
a
off
year.
the
Yeah,
island.
yeah, yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
So you were in the
feel like
same.
Talking to
Yeah,
Nelson,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
Nelson?
No, Wilson.
Wilson.
Yes.
Yeah, and then the thing to know also is when I was working in Maldives, the longest time I worked without taking a break, is like as in working
Yeah.
continuously.
Consecutively, yeah.
That was 3 months.
Without
Not
any day break.
Not taking any day break.
But do you think what else is there to do?
There's nothing else to do. So basically, doing this, I would also save all my weekends, accumulate them. So whenever I was off the island, once I took, I think that was 84 days of vacation.
Oh, wow.
That was
Paid
my
vacation.
vacation. I went back to France for 84 days, like close to 3 months also.
Wow.
So that was
Nice.
cool also. That was cool.
Okay, during the preparation, we were talking about some of the strange things that take place when you work in a hotel in Maldives, and it's basically
Yeah.
it's a very tiny island, so drinking water and all supplies need to come from somewhere else.
In a boat.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so now I guess that's every Tuesday night for the rest of my life. I'll be having the same thought is, oh, thank God, tomorrow I don't need to wake up at 5 o'clock. Because like when I was working in Maldives, every Wednesday mornings, 5 o'clock in the morning, we had to wake up, go to the pontoon and unload all the goods for the week ahead from the supply boat. So we would actually spend from 5 o'clock in the morning up to 11 o'clock in the morning just unloading all those boxes from this supply boat, getting them to the storage area, open them up, like store them properly in the storage and, or the fridges or, in the accounting for the paper or whatever, anything you can think about, obviously. And it was crazy. We would be working like our asses off like every Wednesday morning for every week like this.
Can you imagine that shopping list, man?
No, it's crazy. So that's why the purchasing manager over there, he
Very
has
important.
like a big job, and he
He
better not
messes
forget
up
the
and
salt or
everybody
something.
suffers.
So also, like you mentioned before, like this is where people go and pay a lot of money, top dollar, for a perfect experience, right?
Yeah.
So you, as one of the people providing this experience, any stories you have about that? What happened when you have an issue, when you don't, let's say, when you're not up to par?
Obviously, a lot of pressure because, and that's something which for which I respect a lot. My general manager at that time, he was saying that. We were really providing an experience for our guests, because people, they spend that much money. And it's not only the richest people who go there. It may be
The people
actually
who
some
save and make
people
an
who
effort.
save that shitload on their daily
For me, it's
life,
a dream.
just to give themselves this kind of opportunity. And he said that's for these people, especially, that you want to make sure that their experience is pristine and perfect, And so I have this one memory of, we were getting slaughtered for a lunchtime. Now one day there was like 100 people in the restaurant. I had just 2 waiters, so we were running like crazy. Like the tough moment. Things were going smoothly somehow, you know. People got their food on time. People were happy with the food. And the general manager, he came and he asked me, okay, how's everything? I was like, yeah, a little bit tough, but we managed it all right. And he noticed a little bit of a spill of sauce on my shirt, and he destroyed me.
I bet that wasn't ketchup.
No, that was not, well, whatever sauce it was, you know, but he destroyed me. He say, how dare you actually don't change shirt like this, you know, this is ruining the whole paradise feeling of all these guests, you know, they should not actually have this kind of, they when they see the whole scenery, they should see only perfection everywhere, you know. That's something I got to be used to in the hotel industry, but that's definitely not my character at base, you know. And now I really like this way of looking at things, you know. Right. 5-star hotel is supposed to be perfection. People pay a good amount to enjoy properly.
Right. So you were there for them.
Yeah,
Not for
exactly.
you.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
So what did you do with the stain?
How
did you sort it out?
I told my team, guys, you know, I'm being killed by the general manager. You stay over there. You keep on trying to handle the place. I'll just run to change my shirt.
Wow.
And I'm back.
Yeah, is that
Like,
important?
yeah.
Well, there is tons I want to ask about the Maldives, but we don't have too much time left. And let's move on to your next station after the
Destination.
Maldives.
Yeah, that was
So why did you leave? I mean, you just wanted to move on.
yeah. 2 years
Yeah.
in Maldives
2
is
years
crazy, you know.
is good enough, right?
Just to say one last thing about Maldives. Usually people say in the industry, if ever you work in Maldives, if you stay less than 6 months, you're kind of people, they say you're kind of weak, you know. You don't have the balls to stay longer, you know?
Right.
If you stay 1 year, you're normal. If you stay 2 years or more, you're kind of crazy, you know. So that's the thing. So 2 years, because as you can imagine, you know, you don't step out of the island much, you know. You always stay with the same people always, you know. It's a very restricted environment. It's amazing, but in French you would call it a golden prison.
Do you see
Yeah.
people quit before they
Oh yeah.
intended to?
Oh yeah. I had a couple of expat friends who stayed there for 2 months and like said, no, that's
for me.
It's not for me. So you moved on to work where?
I moved to Dubai actually. I worked to Dubai. I went to work on Sofitel on the Palm.
Sofitel.
Nice.
Okay. I would say that was a shock actually, because I moved from a 100 rooms hotel to a 1,000 rooms hotel.
What was your position?
Restaurant manager again. Restaurant manager in the Moana restaurant. So seafood, like very high class fine dining
How many
seafood restaurant
tables?
over there. Like around 60 tables. So like a small, like kind of the same size as the one I was used to in Maldives.
200 more or less.
But way more busy, because the hotel was like, for one thing, it was in the city, so we could have people from the city to come in. It was not just hotel guests. And then there were like 2,000 guests staying in the hotel. So the hotel was, the restaurant was basically every night full. It was amazing. Seriously, great times.
What kind of customers were from?
A lot of British actually.
Yeah,
No, but
you love them.
No, yeah, I love them. You know, but Dubai seems to be like the new hype destination, especially in England. I have the feeling, you know, in France also it's a hype destination, but seems that I have the feeling that in England it's even more of a like the new classy the new classy place to go to, you know.
David Beckham has a home.
Yeah, I guess so, you know.
In the
Whatever, I
Palm.
don't know the guy.
So, how long did you stay there?
That was more like 1 year and a half.
And you mentioned earlier when we talked that this is like Dubai is like that place that looks good on a resume. Well, why is that?
Because the hotel industry, 5-star hotel industry over there is hyper competitive. You can. That's why also it's such a destination, because there's, I don't know, I don't have the number, but easily over 100 hotels, 5-star hotels in Dubai city
To choose from, huh?
And yeah. So all hotels need to be on the top of of all the standards and everything, you know. So the management over there is very tough, but it's in a good way, because they all want to do it better than the other.
If there's anything that I know, which is very little actually, about, well, the Middle East and Dubai is that there's a lot of eccentricity. Did you ever get any eccentric requests from customers, things like that? What do you remember? Or what kind of eccentricities really surprised you from living there? I see
So
you.
we can't really talk too much about this, you know.
There's a
But,
non-disclosure
I
agreement.
never
Contract. Yeah.
Non-disclosure.
No, you can't really. I never got any personal requests which were over the roof, you know, completely crazy. But for instance, we had once this guy who wanted to actually hold a private party for his him and his 20 friends or so, you know. And they ended up renting the whole ballroom,
Yeah.
so somewhere where you can basically sit 1,000 people.
For 20 people.
Yeah, for 20 people. And he got a couple of girlfriends to come in, maybe a couple of hundreds of girlfriends to come in, you know. And basically he they partied, I think, for 1 week in there, you know. There were security guards all over the places. No one could get close to this area. No one could see anything what was happening inside. And they just drank up the whole hotel's supply, everything. Like all the liquor was gone, you know.
I don't know the security cameras as well.
Oh yeah. I tell you, you know, it was the whole area was locked, you know, and there was like security guards everywhere. No one could see what was happening.
This is
inside.
like you're talking about like sheikhs, basically. Is it people from Middle Eastern
Princes.
people?
No comments.
No comment. Okay. All right. So what is there to do in Dubai? Before you said that there was 100-meter on 150-meter island, you couldn't get off. Now in Dubai, what's the thing?
What did you do on your day off?
Wow. So Dubai also quite hard actually. Hotel management and especially F&B takes a good deal of your day, you know.
You don't get
working
a lot of time
a lot.
off.
Yeah. So I said that I started working this fine dining seafood restaurant over there. But eventually, quite quick, I moved to the buffet restaurant over there with 1,000 seats over. No, not what am I saying? There was 1,000 breakfasts over in the morning, but with only 500 seats in the restaurant. So that was a lot of things. So a lot of work. And I remember over there working from 8 o'clock in the morning to 10, 11 every day. You know.
But basically, you don't have hotel work. You don't have much time off. How people cope with this? How people like you, your career in hotels, how do you cope with that? How do you unwind? How do you find the time to refuel?
To recharge energies.
Yeah, well, it's actually at some point it's just a rhythm you get.
Right.
It's just a rhythm you get. And, you know, I can cope with it because I like, you know, when I was in Maldives, when I was in Dubai, even though I spent hours and hours, I was still very satisfied with my job, like taking care of my guests, making sure they had a great experience. That's always something which is very satisfying.
Right. Right. And then and now you're working here in China, in the mainland. F&B director, right? Is this something you think you'll do for many years more to come in hotels in the mainland?
Yeah. I'm good in China. I love
You're
China.
good in China.
Yeah. Really, China is, as I said before, I grew up in Hong Kong. I've always been very comfortable in China. Speaking Mandarin is amazing. Speaking of Dongguan, this place rocks actually. If I guess you will agree with me. Dongguan is an amazing place.
Right.
So comfortable to live in. Like, it's not a huge city. We still have like the small community
It's
of
just the
expats.
right size.
It's amazing. And then the hotel where I'm work, you know, like anywhere has its pros and cons, you know, but amazing. So for me, definitely Hong Kong, China, Macau, all these areas.
Hotels.
Oh yeah, hotels.
All the way.
Yeah. All the
All
way,
right.
no problem.
All right. Well, Ludovic, we want to thank you very, very much for, giving us some of your very busy time to talk to us on this
Pretending
podcast.
Taking your
and this
time
video.
off from not
Yeah.
a lot of time
That was
off.
perfect for me to say, oh, I'm so busy like this, you know. And I'll hope my
No,
boss
but
will
really,
see
thank
the
you very
video.
much. We
Thank you.
learned so much about you, and we hope that the people that are watching and listening really got to appreciate, an insight into the F&B and
could
the
talk
hotel
another
industry.
hour.
Yeah, I
Sure.
would love to actually.
So guys, that's it for today. Thank you very much. And remember, if you liked our video, give it a thumbs up. And if you like the content of our channel, make sure to click the subscribe button. And when you do that, don't forget to hit the bell button to be notified whenever there is a new video out. And don't forget to follow us in the social media posted down below. And That was another episode from, of course,
China.
okay, guys, bye bye.
Bye bye.